Good morning, students. Today in this video, I'm going to teach you something very important for writing component to write something like an essay or a paragraph. So this video is going to help you improve your marks when it comes to writing essay or paragraph on tests. So let's get started. So I have here an essay question. Education is the single most important factor in the development of a country. Do you agree or disagree? Or maybe what extent you are agree or disagree? So this is an example of a question you might be asked. Now problem a lot of students have is in their answer, or they are tend to make mistake to this question. They see this and think, okay, education is the most important factor in the development of a country. Yes, I agree. So then they, or I disagree, and they'd start writing. And what do they write? See in red. Usually, the very first thing students will write is this: I agree that education is the single most important factor in the development of a country. Because, so what is the problem with this? Is there any problem to start off your essay with something like this or to begin your answer? There is a big problem. So I want you to take a moment and think what could be the problem with beginning the essay with this sentence. Well, if you notice, you have here the word education. Education is the single most important factor. If you notice, these are the same. They are the exact same except for I agree that and because. The student here use the exact same wording that is in the question. So if you do this on exams, and many students do this, if you write exact words in your answer from the question, you actually will lose marks because you are not showing your abilities, your creativity. You are just copying what somebody else has said or what the essay question is. So in this video, I'm going to show you first of all, I'm going to tell you, you don't do this, don't copy, and I'm going to teach you ways in order to improve yourself and your answer by changing this kind of wordings. So how can you change your introduction so it's different than what the question is? Okay, so let's look at how to make these changes. Okay, so what we are going to do in order to change the question into a proper answer that doesn't just copy the question is we are going to paraphrase. Okay, so the word here is paraphrase. This might be a new word for you. What does it mean to paraphrase something? Well, when we paraphrase, it means we take a sentence that you know. We take somebody else's sentence and we change it into our own words. Okay. So we change the words of a sentence. We also change maybe the sentence structure, but we keep all the same meaning. The meaning from the question you copy, not words, as they do exist in the question. Be careful that the meaning should stay the same. Same meaning, but in different words and different sentence structure. Okay. So it is in your words, but this other person's meaning. What? It is in your words means you will use synonyms, but without changing the meaning. So we are going to paraphrase this example of a question into our own words. So first we are going to look at how to do that using vocabulary and synonyms. So we have here the same question Education is the single most important factor in the development of a country. How can we put this into new words or our own words that keep the same meaning or without changing the meaning of the question? Well, we can use synonyms. So, this might be a new word for a few students. Synonyms are words that have the same meaning but are different words. So, for example, big and large. They have the same meaning, just like huge, enormous. These are synonyms of each other, same meaning, but they are different words. Okay, so you need to use different synonyms. Don't just copy these words. You use synonyms to have words that have the same meaning but are different words. So let's look at an example. Our first word here is education. See in the question, our first word is education. What's another word we can use instead of education? Well, there are different words we can use. Maybe one could be schooling. Schoolling. Schooling. Okay. So we could change the word education to schooling. Schooling is the single most important factor in the development of a country. So now, what's another word we can change? Well, maybe most important. Okay, most important is the other word. Instead using the word most important, we could use most significant or most essential or most crucial. Okay, so there are many words you can use, but the point here is to find a word that has the same meaning but it's a different word. Here's another word, factor. See in the question, factor. Well, sometimes factor can be an aspect or an element. Okay, you can even say sometimes a significant role or a part. Okay, so there are different words we can use that have similar meanings. In terms of the word development, we can change the development to progress, advancement, evolution. Okay. And in terms of the word country, another word for country is nation. Okay. So these are all synonyms, and this is what I want you to do. When you look at the question, think about some new words you can use that have the same meaning. This is also important throughout your essay, not just for only the sentence in the introduction. Because one mistake a lot of students tend to make is that they keep using the same word again and again and again in every sentence, which irritates the examiner, copy checker very much, and this affects your marks badly. This doesn't help with your marks. Okay, so it's better to use different words that have the same meaning. At the same, you have to be careful here because some students find a new word, they think it's a great word, but there is a little bit of a difference in meaning. So you need to be really comfortable with the word you choose, and you need to know what it actually means, so that it doesn't sound strange. Okay, so if we want to change this now, instead of saying education is the single most important factor in the development of a country, our outcome of phrase is a first step in our phrase could be changing these words to, see in red, schooling is the single most significant element in the advancement of a nation. Okay, so this is just one example. So now let's look at another important thing you can do in order to paraphrase the question on a test. So another way we can paraphrase is by changing the structure of the sentence. So for example, you might have a verb. You know, which is an action word, and what is a verb? Verb is an action word, and you might change that into its noun form. So, for example, if your verb is developing, see below the question, developing, you might change that into development. Okay, so developing is a verb and development is noun. You have changed developing to development, or in other words, you have changed the verb to noun. You might change similarly a noun into a verb. Okay, so for example, we just say development is the noun, it can be turned into develop or developing. See in the next, after developing, development. You can also change things into adjectives. So if for example you are talking about technology, which is a noun, you can change it into the adjective form, which is technological. Okay, so changing the form of the word can help you with paraphrasing. Changing placement of the words can also help you out a lot. So, for example, in our original sentence, or the question was, education is the single most important factor in the development of a country. I have, now you notice the red one line. Here I have changed some of the wordings as well as the order. So here education is at the beginning. In my sentence, the most essential element of a nation's development is education. Here I have changed the order of the sentence. So now education is at the end instead of at the beginning. I have also started out with the most essential as my beginning, whereas here it was in the middle in the question. You will also notice we have here in the development of a country, I have changed this to nations apostrophe s. Okay, development. I could also change this to country's development instead of the development of a country. So, changing the order of the sentence and changing some of the structure can really help you in terms of paraphrasing. Now, let's learn one other way in which we can improve our writing skill by paraphrasing. Okay, so the last step I have about paraphrasing a question is using concessions. So, what is a concession? Well, I want you to look at what the question actually says and my new answer to it. The question again, same question as before. Education is the single most important factor in the development of a country. My answer, so I have changed some words and I have also changed the structure a bit. But there is one other thing I have added, and that is, although many would argue that the economy is the most important factor in nation building, I think, comma, I think education has a far greater impact. So, what I have done here is I have added a concession. A concession is where you what the opposite opinion is. Okay, what is a concession? Where you say what the opposite opinion is, and then you say what your opinion is. So you are giving two opinions. You are giving your opinion and also what other people might think. And this is really very, very important thing to do while writing essays. And this is something you can do at the beginning of your answer. So we use here the keyword although, okay, and you will notice that this has two clauses. I don't want to get you involved technically with grammar on you today, but what I mean is if you see we have the red part, although, many would argue that the economy is the most important factor in nation building. And then we have a second part. So we have two parts to this sentence. I think education has a far greater impact. So the first part of the sentence is in red, and it's the although part, and the second part of the sentence is in green. Okay, and that's, I think, education has a far greater impact, and they are separated by a comma. So a concession has two parts to it. You say what the other people think first. In this case, although many meaning people. Okay, we could also say many people. Although many would argue that the economy is the most important factor in nation building, so this is what some people would say. Now, I am going to say what I think. I think education has a far greater impact. So, why is this a good idea? Well, one reason is because when you write a concession, when you are showing what the opposite opinion of yours is, you are showing that you think about the issue. Okay, you are looking at both sides. You are not just looking at your opinion, you are looking at both sides, and then you are making a judgment. So, this shows that you are thinking about the question and really giving it some thought. And by representing both the sides, you are really showing critical approach or thinking. So, this is really good to do while writing an essay. Okay, so the three things we have discussed today in terms of paraphrasing, the question is the question, paraphrasing the question, and that is changing the words using synonyms. We have talked about changing the sentence structure, and we have also discussed about adding the other perspective, others' perspective using concessions. Okay, so these are the three things you can do in order to change the question. So you are not just copying what is on your test paper. One more good thing is to do if you are writing a junior high school or high school or higher level competition essay, this skill will really work for you. Now you might be thinking, okay, this is great, but I don't know any synonyms, or I don't know um, much about this well. Okay, uh, what you can do is improve your vocabulary. Just add 5 new words with their synonyms and antonyms every day to your vocabulary. Surely you will improve your writing skills. Thank you so much.